Earnings from financial service giant American Express out earlier this morning. The company matching street forecast with quarterly profit of $3.04 a share, with revenue slightly above consensus. Joining us now, Erika Najarian, head of U.S. Banks and Consumer Finance Equity Research at UBS. Erika, thanks so much for joining us. So what did you make of the earnings? What do you think of the stock price this morning?
Yeah, so in terms of the earnings, I think they were largely in line. I think everybody was worried about the revenue growth outlook for 2025, thinking the U.S. high-end consumer was slowing. Now, American Express is now thinking that revenue growth is going to go up 8 to 10%, which is exactly in line with investors were thinking, and actually build business, which is how much spend is going through the American Express network, was better than expected, up 8% versus 6% for consensus. And really why results were largely in line is because they spent more on marketing, on engaging their customers this quarter to get that spend.
Yeah, I mean, when I talk to luxury retailers, stores, car dealers, it looks like there was this huge boost in spending among the wealthy and the affluent in December, continuing on January. Do you think there's a possibility of even beating that forecast? I know there was a range that Amex gave this morning, but what do you think on the possibility of even on the upside of that forecast?
Yeah, you know what's interesting? So the young people are going to save us. The build business for millennials and Gen Z was up 16% versus up 7% for Gen X and up 4% for boomers. I thought that was a very interesting stat for the quarter, right?
That is interesting. And also, it's surprising too.
Yeah, and I think the T&E spend was even bigger than, goods and services. So that actually quite tracks in terms of, that younger cohort. But what's interesting as we think about this animal spirits economy in the new administration is SME or small business growth continues to be quite slow at up 3%. So in terms of what could actually drive a beat, I'm not sure if it's going to be an even more turbocharged consumer, but it's possibly that SME or that small business really sort of picking up and, starting to expand their businesses in 2025.
Yeah, and they've been fairly disciplined about knowing what their core business is, knowing who their core clients are. But they did just buy Tock, that's the restaurant booking company. How's that doing? Do you see any other acquisitions this year? And what sort of sector might they do a bolt-on if they do?
Look, I think Tock is actually quite in line with what they're thinking. For your audience, like Tock is essentially guaranteeing a table at a hot restaurant by prepaying a spend, and that's totally in line with a company where T&E spend was up 10% for the quarter. So I think what Amex is going to continue to do is look at deals where you're just so hooked on their ecosystem. So an American Express Platinum card requires you to spend on day one like $695 before you even get up and buy your expensive Starbucks or your expensive $1,000 plane ticket, right? So they have to hook you and make sure that you're happy in the ecosystem. And so as long as they're doing those kinds of deals that keep you sticky, right, then you're not going to go to Capital One Venture X or you chase Sapphire Reserve. So I'm not sure what those deals necessarily are, but I think they're going to continue to look at those types of acquisitions that will prevent you or at least make you, want to pay that $695 before you even spend $1 for yourself.
Yeah, although that Platinum card doesn't get you into a Delta lounge like it used to. Erika, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, for more on how the wealthy consumers are spending their money and what they're buying with their Centurion cards, a reminder, you can subscribe to my new Inside Wealth newsletter. You scan the code on the screen to get started. It talks about all family offices, how the wealthy are investing, spending, and giving away their fortunes.